Hey, so there is already a video about Safety Stop, the memoir I'm writing currently, but this video is more about the lessons I learned during this decade I'm writing about and also how these lessons can help you. Safety Stop and the 12 spiritual laws of the universe. Safety Stop is about 10 years of my life when I worked as a diving instructor around the world. And that's lessons related to chasing my dreams. But I also lost my parents at a too young age. So my mother passed away when I was 21 years old. That's the first chapter of Safety Stop. And 8 years later, just before I turned 30, also my dad passes away. So there's lessons related to grief as well, and in the fulfillment of my dreams, and which I work a bit with the law of attraction. And it's funny because when I mentioned that I experiment with the law of attraction, I got a lot of reactions to this. But I'm not sure if people are aware that that the law of attraction is actually one of the 12 universal laws operating in all of our lives. They're also called spiritual universal laws. And the law of attraction is only one of them. I grew up with a Catholic background, Christian, and I kind of feel I was guided to lots of different philosophy, ancient teachings, and different religions. So, like the Mayas in Mexico, I went to a Buddhism retreat in Sri Lanka. I worked in a country on the Maldives, which is 100% Islam. So, and in Bali, it's a lot of Hinduism. So I kind of feel like I'm looking for one truth. And it's funny because recently I realized that by reflecting back to this decade, I'm actually guided through the 12 universal laws, to the 12 spiritual laws that are affecting everyone with any kind of background, with any kind of religion. So, why is it important to know about these laws? Well, a lot of people are struggling with applying the law of attraction in their life. And if you don't know about the other laws, that's a bit like cooking with only one ingredient. So, it's important to know about these other laws because they all govern our lives. It doesn't matter where we come from, it doesn't matter our background, they all affect us. And if you understand them, you might also understand why something in your life is not working. It might bring bigger clarity to your purpose in life and also give a bit of purpose in the negative events in your life. It can help you with your own inner guidance and find your own intuition as well. And also to realize that actually the universe always is working for us and not against us. I will now first explain how the 12 laws come alive in my story before I give you an overview of all the countries I take you to in Safety Stop and how to stay tuned. The law of oneness connects us to all other laws, and in the first chapter of my book, I reflect upon this law after losing my mom because I feel like I received certain signs from the afterlife. The law of oneness is based upon that we all connected, that everything is connected. And it's funny because my mother also tells me before she passes away that I will never walk alone. And I also, much later in the book, I realized that if indeed we all connected, we can never really walk alone. And all these laws are like connected to each other. So often I come back to a certain law, or in one chapter I learn about more laws. But for example, the law of oneness also got reflected back to me when I work in Mexico and I learned the Maya phrase, "You are another me," clearly demonstrates it. But in Mexico, I learn more about you reap what you sow, and this clearly reflects the law of cause and effect, which is another law. And before I work in Mexico, I work in the Dominican Republic, and I traveled there with two books. The Secret, it's hot at that moment, it's 2008. I think it just came out. And I recommended a book by Louise Hay, Use Your Power from Inside, or anyway, I work with affirmations. And I started to experiment with the law of attraction. I do affirmations. I try to think about what I really want. I actually manifest seeing a whale when working as a diving instructor. Then there's the law of polarity, and I also reflect upon this law clearly comes my way when things don't go as expected, and also when I experience deep grief, when I lost my dad and when I lost my mom. Then there's the law of vibration, which is very connected to the law of attraction. And I reflect upon this law when I discover that we can kind of tune into certain frequencies, how our energy affects how we all interconnected with our energy and how we affect each other. And also when I reflect upon a book written by Esther and Jerry Hicks, or Abraham Hicks. In this period of my life, I kind of work more with frequencies, tuning in, lift up a vibration, and feeling grateful really helps with that. But that also is another chapter in which I reflect more about the law of compensation. When I often get paid more than I expected, or expect other benefits, not in the form of money, but when I'm suddenly gifted the full diving equipment, just when I make the decision to go teach diving again. When I work in more luxury destinations, like the Maldives, for example, I reflect upon the law of relativity when I compare very rich tourists with local people who are economically less benefited. So often in Safety Stop, I reflect upon or write about my struggle with romantic relationships. I read a book written by Pat Allen, and it's all about the male and female energies. And those reflections clearly demonstrate the law of gender. The law of rhythm I experience, of course, when losing my parents as well, but also when I leave a country, when I leave a job, and also experience it being hard sometimes when I try to hold on to things. So this law also demonstrates a bit certain ancient philosophies and religion teachings about detachment. Because it's related to the cycles in life and how everything ends and there's a place for new beginnings. Then there's the law of energy transmutation, and this is related to how we process our emotion, how we also can get stuck if we don't do so. And I experience this a lot with not processing certain emotions related to my grief. Then there's the law of correspondence, which is really related to the teachings of Louise Hay. So the law of correspondence is saying actually that our outer world is just a reflection of what we're carrying inside. And I reflect upon this law when I struggle with my habits of people pleasing, patterns of people pleasing, can't get rid of my addiction of smoking, addictions, and also how I always struggle to make decisions. So these are things that keep coming back in my life, they're patterns, and they're actually just outer reflection of things I keep carrying inside. My second chapter is about the law of inspired action. I work double jobs. We really have to take action about making our dreams come true, and just visualizing it or working with the law of attraction is not enough. So that's the law of inspired action. And those are the 12 laws, how they are actually come alive in my story. So there is another video about Safety Stop already. I will add the video card in here. But if you didn't see this other video, I will now also give you a summary of the countries I worked in, if you're interested in that, and also where I traveled to. I write about working and living in the Netherlands, my home country, the Canary Islands in Spain, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, the Maldives, New Zealand and Australia. And I also take you on my travels to Egypt, Belize, Guatemala and Honduras, Hungary, Bali in Indonesia, Singapore and the Philippines. The 12 universal spiritual laws of the universe are the law of divine oneness, attraction, vibration, inspired action, cause and effect, correspondence, the law of relativity, compensation, polarity, gender, rhythm, and the transmutation of energy. So please subscribe to my channel if you like to stay updated. I will also publish videos about sustainable tourism and my experience when I worked as an instructor, and about solo female travel with tips. You can also go to my website, which is splashbacker.com. I will add the link in the description below, and also a link to more information about Safety Stop book. And you can also sign up for my mailing list on the website. I will also add in the description links to books and videos only about the laws. So there's a lot of books written about these laws, especially in the last 2 years. And I've read a few of them, but especially one is really good where it really explains each law. So it's not written like Safety Stop is a travel memoir when I discovered these laws. but the books I refer to in the description below are just informative books taking you over each law. So that might be helpful for you. And there's also a few other videos and other YouTube channels I found about these laws. So I will also put all of that information in the description below. Okay, thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye. In the other video, I explain a bit more about the content of Safety Stop book and also how I became a diving instructor.